My name is Raul Peralez. I am the council representative for District 3 in San Jose, which is the downtown core and all the surrounding neighborhoods around downtown. I'm on my 8th and final year here as the council representative, but I'm a lifelong resident of the city of San Jose. Grew up in West San Jose, and had a pleasure of being able to serve our community now as a council representative. So I grew up in West San Jose. Little kid, right? Spent my whole life in this city, and I was a graduate of San Jose State. Actually, went to San Jose State got a degree in math with the intent to be a teacher. And actually, that's what I started off doing. I started off being a substitute high school teacher here in Santa Clara County. Started off in my old high school district, Fremont Union High School District, then went over to East Side, did a couple of charter programs, and then actually the longest period, about 8 years, I was a substitute with what's known as alternative ed. So I actually had taught at juvenile hall, community day schools, and the Boys Ranch. During that same time, I went back to school, became an EMT here in the city, and then that led me to my next career, which was as a San Jose police officer. And I served with the police department for 8 years and left the department when I won for city council. So I ran back in 2014 to be a council member, won an uphill challenging battle, and now have been fortunate to be the council representative, as I said, for 8 years. I've got 2 kids of my own now. I got a son who's about to be 4, Jorge, and a brand new daughter, Sophia, 5 months. And my wife and I, we live here in the Luna Park neighborhood of North Side, just outside of downtown. Still have my family around here in San Jose, my parents, my sister, and nieces, nephews, stuff like that. So this is home, and it's always been home. The lowriding community and culture has also always been a part of my life, ever since, before I could even remember. Those were the only cars that my parents drove growing up. We would take our family trips to Disneyland in my dad's, 66 Impala. That was just a family car, right? They were driving it to work, we were driving it around, and we were cruising. My parents were part of the Chicano culture and the cruising culture here in San Jose. And, again, for even further back than I can remember, they would take us down downtown, Story and King. We'd stop off at Tropicana, pick up some groceries, and head back home on a Sunday afternoon. We were going to car shows, and then some of my earliest memories, right, of cruising down Santa Clara Street or going to some of the car shows, Lowrider shows. My mom was a subscriber to Lowrider magazine. We'd get that every single month, and so we went to the shows. It was part of our life, right? It was part of our culture growing up. My very first car was a 65 Impala, actually, sitting back here in the picture frame. I used to take it to shows as well. I ended up joining the Impala's Car Club here in San Jose. So that, as I became a young man and got my driver's license, it became a big part of my life as well. And I would have still been cruising, still had a lowrider if it didn't get wrecked. So I had somebody, unfortunately, that ran a stop sign and plowed into me, and it went through a series of mishaps at the shop and just different stuff, and it ended up sitting there for about 10 years, and eventually I finally gave it up. But still part of the family. My parents are looking for another lowrider right now. They haven't had one in some time since they become grandparents and stuff. But it'll always be a part of our culture. Actually, you know what? My parents are in Hot August Nights right now. So they're up in Reno, right, for Hot August Nights, something that they've been going to for a long time. So it's part of our family. And I think it's also a big part of San Jose, right? When you talk about where lowriding originated, San Jose is one of those conversations that comes up, right? And how much we have been a part of the lowrider community, East San Jose specifically, right? Story and King. You look at things like Lowrider magazine, right? Like Street Low. San Jose is put lowriding on the map for years. Whether or not, right, where it originated, right, still gets debated. But at the same time, we know that there were some real strong cities where the lowriding culture, the Chicano culture, was very strong, and San Jose is one of them. And we grew up with that and seeing that. And unfortunately, over the years, right, it really diminished. And one of the big reasons why was the outlawing of lowriding, of cruising. Right, in the late 80s, 86, the city passed that. And really in the 90s, when I started cruising myself, my own car, it was heavy-handed enforcement, right? And that's I made mention of it when I was passing the ordinance to repeal the ordinance. the memories that I have of getting stopped, getting pulled over for cruising, getting the warnings. We would put them on our antennas back in the day, and really that part of our culture was under attack. And when you see today, right, that the fact that it's been able to survive from the true enthusiasts, right, those that really love their cars, right, love the culture, and I'm excited now that I've been able to be in office and now be a part of this next generation, right, where we are finally repealing that ordinance, and now we'll see what comes next. Yeah, we're embarking on a whole new era of lowriding, right? I mean, lowriding originating here, no question, originated in the west coast of California, right, or of United States, excuse me, right? Likely, right, Southern California. You look at some of the other western states, right, and places that claim it. But regardless, we know that it grew out of here, out of Western United States. But it's everywhere now, right? Over the years, right? You look at the lowriding community in Japan; it's huge, right? So this grew overseas, international, and we are now embarking on a whole new history for lowriding. And I think that's why so many people are excited, because when you look at what happened in the 80s and the 90s, where this part of our culture and our community was really under attack and be deemed illegal. And right, the criminalization of it, the discrimination of it, the discrimination of Chicanos, Latinos, right? All of that for a couple decades, right, was what the focus was, and it became something to the general population bad, right? Something bad or associated to gangs or violence, and really now we're changing that narrative by repealing these ordinances, and right, we're making history. Number one, Sacramento, right, they saw us start to take the lead, and they jumped in and they repealed their ordinance a month before us. But we're now the second city to outright repeal the ordinance. You see other cities like National City that actually kind of led the charge. They found a hybrid approach that they have. I don't totally agree with it, but that's a topic for another story. But I'm proud of what they did, and the fact that they're beginning, right, and other cities are beginning to talk about this. Santa Ana just had their conversation as well. And we're starting to see other cities, especially the lowrider communities in these other cities, wanting to start to engage with their government and repeal these ordinances. And so we're making history, but we're also embarking on something new. And I think it's exciting, because now you're talking about being able to re-engage with the community. The lowrider community can now re-engage with the greater community in a way where they're embraced, right? In a way where we should have been all along, right? Where people can actually be excited, right, and be proud about seeing a part of their city, a part of their culture, right? Taking a look at some super nice cars, right? Classic cars, and with tremendous amount of work put into them. Right, and telling a story about our community through the artwork, right, and through the cars themselves. So I'm excited, and I don't know exactly what's next to come. I know we're going to celebrate here in San Jose. We're planning a celebration. We'll do it right here at City Hall, and invite the public to come and celebrate with us this this milestone, this historical event of repealing the ban. This effort, right, to repeal these bans, not every city has that, right? So not every city is going to have to go through this, but these bans exist, and they have existed in a lot of cities, especially in California, for 30 years, right? And so it's not going to be easy, and we've seen that already, again, with like National City kind of trying to find a hybrid approach, Santa Ana finding a hybrid approach. I don't agree with that. I think that the first step that any city needs to look at is just an outright repeal of the ban. Cruising should not be illegal. The simple act of cruising I don't care if it's a lowrider or what kind of car, but the simple act of driving your car slowly, and this is what the law says, in a congested area and going past the same checkpoint twice, that should not be illegal. There's nothing inherently dangerous about that. Nothing inherently illegal shouldn't be illegal. The state of California doesn't deem it illegal. It's not in the California Vehicle Code book. This is only municipal codes that cities have had to enact on their own. And so I think that should really be the first step, but easier said than done, right? I think that for a city that is looking at this, and I actually have had a conversation with a number of the lowrider councils now up and down the state, and giving them the advice that the number one thing they need to do is find a champion, right? They need to start to build a relationship with their elected officials, and be able to find a champion on their city council that, or their mayor, right, potentially, that will help them to repeal their ban. Because the community can only do so much, but you're going to need somebody that's gonna champion that, right? And here, right, we were fortunate. I have an actual connection in history to the lowrider community. Not every council is going to have that, and so you may have more of a challenge in other cities where you have to now educate somebody on the council, right? And likely then, once you find your champion, you have to educate the rest of the council as well, because it's going to take multiple votes. Just like here in San Jose, it would have taken us at least 6 votes. We were fortunate. We ended up getting a unanimous vote, but that may not be the case everywhere. So we knew we needed at least 6. And so our lowrider council did the work of going out and building a relationship with other elected officials, not just me, right, and building that relationship. And it wasn't just about the ban. It was over the years too. And so that's another recommendation I would give, is that don't make it just about the ban. Just start building a relationship with your elected officials, your mayor, with your city, your police department, right? Participate in some of the different events. We just had on Tuesday a National Night Out event, right? Engage in some of those things, participate. Bring your cars, right, out to some of these events. Coordinate with the city. For instance, here, our lowrider council participates and coordinates with our library, and they'll do different events, their backpack giveaways. We've done a history of lowriding exhibit here. Right, those are all ways that you can now help build support within the community. I know, that a lot of the clubs have been doing this for years. When I was on the Impalas in the late 90s, we were giving out toys. We were taking our lowriders, putting the toys, Christmas toys, in the trunk and driving them around, dropping them off like Santa Claus for the kids that had signed up for a free toy giveaway from Sacred Heart. And so we were doing that then. And it wasn't about, trying to get the ban repealed or not. It was just, about being engaged with your community. So I think, right, that's a big part of it. But definitely finding that champion on your council, and then working through the effort. Know that it could be challenging, right? You may have some opposition from other council members. You may have opposition from the police department. We saw a little bit of that here, where initially our police department did, they made it clear they didn't want to repeal the ban. They felt it was a useful tool. We heard a little bit of opposition initially from our mayor that was hesitant about repealing the ban outright, right, without having another solution. And so I think just having that in mind, right, that you're going to have to put in some time and effort and the work to help educate your elected officials, and then more importantly, help educate your broader community. So it is exciting. It's exciting time right now, because we are truly starting to combat some of this historic racism, systemic racism, the systemic discrimination, and really, right, that's the core of some of these bans. And it's not just about the cruising ban, right? It's really I think a greater effort throughout our entire country right now, when we're looking at how is it that we are policing our community? How is it that what are we criminalizing in our communities? And who is it that's, that is subjected to this level of criminalization? And so I think it's exciting, right? Especially myself, coming from, law enforcement, being a police officer, but also being, in this case, right, a member of the community, the lowrider community, being an elected official in a position to make this kind of change. It is an exciting time. And, I want to thank everybody that lent their support here to the city of San Jose. We had people from Sacramento and Southern California, right, that lent their support. We're here to support you as well, as you are maybe trying to start, going down the same path. And it shouldn't stop here, right? It shouldn't stop with the cruising ban. This type of reform within our community, I think, is greatly needed. And I'm excited, right, to be a part of this history. And thank you for sharing the story as well on Radio Voices, and for everybody that is going to tune in.